All I need is some sunshine. All I need, all I need is some sunshine. All I need.
Greetings, I'm your host, Dr. Wolfula, and when I'm not calling you late at night to ask horror movie trivia whilst hiding in the bushes outside your home, I'm here at the Wolfie Lair, reviewing movies. That's Wolf-U-Lair, not Wolfie Lair. Get it right. In case you didn't know, you're in the middle of October 5, a Halloween-themed celebration of horror icons. Through, movie reviews. Yeah. Last time on October, Jason lived and then sort of died, I guess. Up next is Ghostface from the popular Scream franchise. After the 80s, film audiences were burnt out on horror flicks, especially of the slasher variety, which had been, throughout the 80s, done to gory death. Many slasher icons were on their deathbeds, and a couple of them were officially dead even. There wasn't a whole lot in the way of new horror flicks to look forward to during the early 90s, and a lot of the stuff from popular franchises that saw release were generally considered to be the worst fucking movies in their respective franchises. Are you a fan of Leatherface? Oh, well, he doesn't just wear a woman's face in his 90s movie. Now he's full-on cross-dressing. Scary. In the worst possible way. It was looking grim for the horror genre, but then, in 1996, a horror movie called Scream was released, written by Kevin Williamson and directed by the late great Wes Craven. Scream was a slasher movie about a guy in a mask who goes after teens. Doesn't sound all that special, right? Well, Scream was a huge cha-ching at the box office, it got some rave reviews, and it spawned a franchise spanning 3 sequels and now a TV show. Also, there was a ton of shitty spoofs on Scream. Anybody remember Shriek If You Know What I Did Last Friday the 13th? Didn't fucking think so. Most importantly though, Scream introduced a new generation to horror classics and made people care about scary movies again. I guess. I know I saw a hell of a lot of people dressed as Ghostface every Halloween during the late 90s, so that's gotta count for something. Why was Scream such a huge hit when it was released, and does it still hold up today? I'm sorry, I don't really have any definitive answers to those questions, so instead I'm just gonna stuff my opinions down your throat. Say ah! Scream begins with a young girl alone in her home, making popcorn and preparing to watch a scary flick. Unbeknownst to the girl, a creep is watching her. Besides me, of course. The chick is played by Drew Barrymore, hot off the heels of her great success as one of Two-Face's henchwenches in Batman Forever. Remember how Drew took the world by storm alongside Jim Carrey?
Shut up! You're here to work. How's my mole?
Fine.
Mr. Wayne!
Well, she totally took the world by storm, and she went back to playing a teen in this movie. Yeah, none of the teens in this movie are actual teens, and it really shows. Anyway, Drew receives a phone call from a stranger with a sore throat.
Yes?
Who is this?
Who are you trying to reach?
What number is this?
The conversation starts off innocently enough, but it becomes clear that the man that Drew is speaking to intends to make her the next Sharon Tate. Too soon?
What do you want?
To see what your insides look like.
Drew opts to not call the police at all because the killer insists that they would never make it in time because they're in the middle of nowhere.
I am 2 seconds away from calling the police.
They'd never make it in time.
Okay, you might as well still call the police instead of doing what the murderer says you shouldn't do. He is not your friend. The threatening calls escalate, and the madman reveals his shtick. An obsession with horror movies, and if Drew wants to survive this night, she's going to have to answer some scary movie trivia.
Name the killer in Halloween.
No.
The only nerdier premise for a slasher villain would be a sci-fi nerd who kills you if you don't know the birth name of Chewbacca's son. Honestly, if you actually know what Chewbacca's son is named, you kind of deserve to die. It's Lumpawaru, by the way. Yes, I knew that from memory. After Drew and the killer's tete-a-tete, the killer reveals himself to be a dude in a cheap Halloween costume wearing a mask on his face that looks like a ghost. I know, I'll call him Phantom Head. Oh yeah, he's called Ghostface. Phantom Head is better. One thing leads to another, and Drew Barrymore is slain by Ghostface. Spoilers? Yeah, the movie pulls a Janet Leigh on us. Except without the shower scene, unfortunately. Drew Barrymore's murder just sets the scene of a killer being on the loose in the small town of Woodsboro, California. Everyone at the high school is abuzz about the slaying of their classmates Drew Barrymore and her boyfriend that I didn't mention before.
It's so sad. Her mom and dad, they found her hanging from a tree, her insides on the outside.
Oh my god. Do they know who did it?
Now, the students at this school may seem to be making a big deal out of these deaths, but remember, high school kids getting murdered was rare back when this movie came out. We weren't used to it then. Joking. The whole murder hubbub at the school is what breaks the ice for the real cast of characters to be introduced. The main protagonist is Sidney Prescott, played by Nev Campbell from Party of Five. I wish I had seen that show so I could make a joke about it. Sidney appears to be uneasy about the murders, especially when Shaggy and that guy who had a hidden camera show once speak of the killings in a disrespectful manner.
Yo, I'm gonna gut your ass in a second, kid.
Tell me something. Did you really put her liver in the mailbox? Because I heard that they found her liver in the mailbox next to her spleen and her pancreas.
I love how these friends can just casually accuse each other of murder. What a fun group! Sidney becomes Ghostface's next victim, or attempted victim, I guess, because Ghostface proves to be quite incompetent as a killer on 2 separate occasions. Man, he sucks. It's clear, though, that Sidney is Ghostface's prime target, but for what reason?
Who are you?
Don't worry, you'll find out soon enough. I promise.
Well, there's a history there. The previous year, Sidney was the center of a huge media blitz involving the murder of her mother, Maureen, by Liev Schreiber. Allegedly. By allegedly, I mean Liev Schreiber allegedly killed the mom. The mom is totally dead. The whole fucking series is predicated upon Sidney's mom being killed, but you never know what they might do in Scream 5. You start to run out of ideas. Anyway, Schreiber is now on death row because Sidney pegged the guy as the killer. But the death penalty for murder 1? Really? Seems a bit extreme, but California is well known for its executions. Sidney thought she could finally move past that whole mess, but with the anniversary of her mother's death approaching, the recent killings, and, the fact that a guy is actually trying to kill her, yeah, Sidney has her doubts now about whether she accused the right guy. That doesn't really matter when you should be focusing more on not dying, however. So, Scream has a story to tell. At the heart of this tale, the movie is really a mystery about who Ghostface is, and what he has to do with the murder of a mother. Well, Scream is kind of a mystery. Can something technically be considered much of a mystery when the main characters don't solve it themselves and it's instead revealed by the villain? I don't know, but if Scooby-Doo can slide by with that as mysteries, then I think that Scream can as well. The mystery is a nice thing to have to keep you thinking about something when the killings aren't going on, even though the killer is kind of obvious and the plan is revealed to not make much sense, but the slasher element to Scream's murder mystery story isn't really all that necessary, honestly.
No.
The killer being obsessed with horror movies is just a gimmick. There's no real significance to the killer going around dressed like a slasher villain and quizzing people beyond making the film commercial as a slasher movie. Would it have made a difference to the story for the killer to go around in a baklava beyond it being unoriginal? The movie does explain why a killer would wear a costume like Ghostface, because it's a common, cheap Halloween getup that anyone can buy.
We sell this costume every 5 and dime in the state. There's no way to track the purchase.
So, there's that, but the film still has the structure of a slasher movie, where the killer is going after a bunch of people for a body count arbitrarily. That's the thing about Scream's story. On one side, you have a serious tale about a girl dealing with the death of her mother and discovering that the real killer is coming after her. And on the other side, you have this silly guy in a ghost costume acting out a real-life, formulaic slasher movie. Ghostface just doesn't really organically fit into the story that Scream tells. It feels like an afterthought to get people interested in Kevin Williamson's script. Of course, the slasher stuff does lead into what Scream is most famous for, the metatextuality. Or self-awareness, basically, if you don't feel like Googling. The world of Scream is much like ours, as far as pop culture is concerned. All the classic horror movies that we got came out in this world as well, and Jamie Kennedy saw a lot of them while working at the local video store. Ah, man, remember video stores? If you don't, then you're too young to be watching my videos. Get out, please. I'll wait for you to close the tab, but just get out. Okay, I think the kids are all gone. Probably off watching PewDiePie or some such shit. Let's get back to this mature discussion about horror movies. Oh yeah, there's no nudity in this movie. What the fuck, Nev? Ah, shit, I'm really off topic here. What was I talking about again? Oh yeah, meta stuff. Scream makes a lot of references to classic horror movies. Some of these references are subtle, some not so subtle. In one scene, you can faintly hear the Halloween theme playing when that particular movie is discussed.
Steve's counting on you.
Michael.
Yes! Very good.
Then later, the characters in the movie just watch Halloween. In case you didn't get the references. The references are cute, I suppose. Especially when Wes Craven not so subtly bashes the sequels to his baby.
Is that the one where the guy had knives for fingers?
Yeah, Freddy Krueger.
Freddy, that's right. I like that movie. It was scary.
Well, the first one was, but the rest sucked.
Aw, you know Wes Craven requested that line. Dream Warriors was good, Wes. You wrote part of that one.
You call me?
Not your friend.
The real meat of Scream's metatextuality lies in its deconstruction of the slasher formula. Well, kind of a deconstruction. The Jamie Kennedy character is named Randy, and like I said earlier, Randy works at a video store, which of course means that he's an expert on film. Yeah, every time I went to Blockbuster and Hollywood Video, I'd always be impressed by the film knowledge of the clerks working there. That's beside the point, though. Randy's whole purpose in this flick is saying that the stuff happening is kind of like a slasher movie, right? Guy in a mask killing people? Slasher movie.
Because he's probably dead. His body will come popping up in the last reel somewhere. Eyes gouged out, fingers cut off, teeth knocked out.
Also, sometimes Randy points out some general cliches of slasher flicks.
There are certain rules that one must abide by in order to successfully survive a horror movie. For instance, number 1, you can never have sex. Big no-no! Big no! I'm a dead man.
That's cute and all, but it's just fluff. Scream doesn't really follow the standard slasher film formula to a T with its killer religiously obeying rules, and none of the characters actually use knowledge of slasher movies to survive. The metatextuality is just there. It is not integral to the story. It's something to talk about when the movie is over. It feels like the self-awareness thing was sort of just there to make an excuse for characters acting really, really fucking stupid in some scenes. Yeah, I'm talking about that fucking stupid garage scene.
No, please don't kill me, Mr. Ghostface. I want to be in the sequel.
Speaking of characters, I guess I should, speak about the characters. I want you to pay very close attention to the cast, kids. Any of them could be the killer. It should be obvious, though. Neve Campbell delivers the best performance in this movie, but I'm a bit conflicted about her actual character, Sidney Prescott. Sid has a troubled past, so she's not going to be the happiest character around, but she spends most of the movie brooding and kind of seeming to be annoyed by everyone around her. It's sort of like if Cloud Strife was a slasher movie heroine. At the same time, the anger in Campbell's performance really lends Sidney Prescott a powerful intensity that you don't see often in a Survivor girl that makes her character an interesting focal point for the Scream series. A series that is actually about her and not the killer.
Do you want to die, Sydney? Your mother sure didn't.
Fuck you, you creep.
The standoffishness of Sydney can get on my nerves sometimes, especially in that one scene where her character generalizes all horror movies.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Oh, come on, you know I don't watch that shit.
Why not? Too scared?
No, it's just what's the point? They're all the same. Some stupid killer stalking some big-breasted girl who can't act, who's always running up the stairs when she should be going out the front door. It's insulting.
Whoa, look at Anita Sarkeesian over here. Also, there's that one scene where Sydney screws over 2 friends just to save her neck.
Fuck you both!
I know she's trying to survive, but she can be less rude about it. It had to have made things awkward later on. The only scene where Sydney seems to be a happy camper is during her introduction, where her boyfriend Billy Loomis, played by Skeet Ulrich, is also introduced.
It's just me.
What are you doing here?
Wait, doesn't Skeet have a goatee on the cover? Oh, whatever. Billy's whole thing is that he really, really wants to do it with Nev Campbell. Who can blame him? But Sydney is never in the mood for it. Almost as if there's something up with Billy. But I'm probably just imagining things. I'd just like to point out that, as a writer, Kevin Williamson's heart is in teenaged romantic tension. I mean, he created fucking Dawson's Creek after all. The dialogue between Sydney and Billy is so very 90s in its cringe-inducing datedness sometimes. The worst offender has to be when Billy uses a movie rating metaphor to describe his stalled physical relationship with Sid.
Well, 2 years ago, we started off hot and heavy. Nice solid R rating on our way to an NC-17. And how things have changed, and lately we're just sort of edited for television.
I hope this scene was edited for television. Sydney is also a 90s dialogue perpetrator when she asks Billy if his brain is leaking.
Is your brain leaking? My mom was killed. I can't believe you're bringing this up.
It's like I'm watching Full House. The rest of the cast of Scream is just sort of there. Matthew Lillard hams it up as the goofy class clown, still not having found his true calling as a hippie that hangs out with a cartoon dog.
No.
Then there's Sydney's close friend, what's her name? You know, she was the chick with a gun for a leg in that one movie, dated Marilyn Manson, you know. Yeah, she's just whatever here. The real major supporting characters in this movie are real-life former couple, David Arquette and Courtney Cox. David Arquette plays Dewey Riley, a bumbling deputy sheriff that wants to be taken seriously.
What did Mama tell you? When I wear this badge, you treat me like a man of the law.
I'm sorry, Deputy Dewey boy, but we're ready to go now, okay?
Courtney Cox plays Gail Weathers, a bumbling news reporter that wants to be taken seriously.
But when I say hurry, please interpret that as move your fat tub of lard ass now!
Gail Weathers has no tact, constantly harassing Sydney for a story, but she gets her comeuppance. Oh damn, bitch went down! Watching Scream, you might wonder what the point of Gail and Dewey is. These two characters are mostly just off to the side romancing each other, not really pushing the story forward. I mean, Dewey is really not good at his job. Instead of defending the teens from a killer, he goes off with Gail to do some investigating of each other's bodies. What's the deal with Dewey and Gail? Well, from the very beginning, Scream was intended to be a trilogy, so there's a lot of things in the first movie that are set up to be expanded in sequels, like Dewey and Gail, or even Liev Schreiber. It's a clever idea to set things up for later in a slasher series, but if you're just watching this one movie, you're probably going to be wondering what's up with this pair and their unresolved relationship. Oh yeah, Fonzie is in this movie ironically playing a principal. Sit on it. Also, there's a bathroom scene at the school featuring two teenage girls gossiping about Sydney, and the acting/dialogue is so over-the-top cartoony in its meanness.
She's her own bubble butt boyfriend, Billy.
Maybe she's a slut, just like her mother.
It gave me a real sitcom vibe. There are a lot of moments like that.
Oh, you are pathetic.
I suppose I should talk a bit about Ghostface. There are two sides to this killer. There's the cool side, which is when you hear him over the phone in that great raspy voice provided by Roger L. Jackson. And then there's the not-so-cool side to Ghostface, where he's actually in person. The costume looks good, but Ghostface is just hapless as a villain in this flick. The guy actually isn't perfect. He runs around frantically and gets knocked down by his prey, which is good for realism, but Ghostface falls down a lot in this movie to a comical degree. It makes it difficult to take the killer seriously when he has a garage door do most of his work for him. It's a tiny bit embarrassing. There's just this disappointing disconnect between the menacing voice and the reality of seeing a guy who just isn't cut out to kill people. Not for lack of trying, though. The knife cleaning thing is cool. While I'm still on the subject of murder, Scream doesn't have many deaths. I think Ghostface only kills maybe 5 characters, and most of those characters are very minor in their roles. The Scream series is incredibly precious with its characters. Scream is probably one of the few slasher movies where just as many characters survive the killer as there are characters killed. That never happens in a slasher movie. I mean, the Survivor Girl is the Survivor Girl for a reason, but Scream broke the mold in this way by having planned out sequels. Still, because of the lack of deaths, there's a lack of interesting kills. Instead, Scream has to rely on the mystery, the humor, and the suspense. Scream really goes for a Halloween vibe, and Wes Craven does a good job imitating Carpenter's style, but Craven doesn't really have a lot of room to do interesting stuff in the movie.
Jamie, look behind you. Look behind you. Turn around. Behind you.
It's cute. His name is Jamie, too. There's not a whole lot to say about Wes Craven's contributions to Scream. Craven didn't write Scream, so it's not quite a Wes Craven movie. It's a Wes Craven directed movie, but it's not a Wes Craven movie. Craven did have a hand in deciding that Ghostface's iconic disguise should be a pre-existing Fun World mask, which was a good call because Halloween was never the same after Scream came out. That mask has become a staple of the holiday, more so than any other slasher movie mask. Well, except Jason, I guess. I'm moving on to music, but Marco Beltrami's score is nothing all that special, so I'm not gonna bore you talking about it. The music does its job as horror music, but, and you've heard me say this a lot, it's not memorable. Not bad though, and a lot of later slasher movies have imitated Scream's score, so it works. The notable piece of music to me is the soundtrack, specifically the track Red Right Hand by Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, because the lyrics sound like they could actually be about Ghostface, and the song sounds like menacing elevator music, like the killer is putting us on hold between killings. Great fucking song. Okay, spoiler time, boys and girls. Skip to this time code if you just want to hear my verdict. I know it's Scream, and everyone has seen it, but you never know, and I wouldn't want to ruin the ending for any of you living under rocks. And statistics have shown that with today's economy, many have been forced to live under rocks. It's truly unfortunate. There was a house party that was organized at Matthew Lillard's house to keep the teens safe from the killer on the loose. Good plan, but the party dies down once they watch some old horror movie from the 70s that nobody's heard of, and the few remaining guests, besides Randy, leave when they discover that Principal Fonzie was killed.
He was gutted and hung from the goalpost on the football field.
What are we waiting for? Let's go over there before they pry him down!
Billy and Sydney stick around to finally rock the Casbah. Of course, that means they gotta die, right? Billy is killed by Ghostface, and Sydney runs around for a while. Eventually, the killer is revealed in grand fashion to be both Billy and Shaggy.
Surprise, Sydney.
Surprising, I know. Especially after that video store scene that totally threw me off with the spooky music playing in the background while the two killers are threatening Randy.
Maybe your movie-freaked mind lost its reality button. You ever think of that?
You're absolutely right. I'm the first to admit it. If this were a scary movie, I'd be the prime suspect.
Totally inconspicuous. It's also explained that Ghostface's voice is produced through a voice modulator that can mask your voice, and the voices produced by the gadget are actually pretty damn consistent in tone and everything.
What's the matter, Sydney? You look like you've seen a ghost.
Shit, man, they could have taken that gadget to market. During this Revelation smorgasbord, Billy and Shaggy also revealed that they killed Sydney's mother a year back. Why? Because they were trying to find the lost gold mine. Nah, I'm just kidding. They killed Maureen Prescott because she got around, and one of her boy toys was Billy's dad, which caused Billy's parents to separate and for his mom to skip town.
Total abandonment causes serious deviant behavior. Certainly fucked you up that made you have sex with a psychopath.
So yeah, don't get divorced if you have a son that resembles Skeet Ulrich. What's Shaggy's motive, though? Doesn't have one. Shaggy's just along for the ride, but I personally think he went insane after being forced to help solve all those traumatizing mysteries. It would explain that one Scream-deleted scene that just showed the mystery machine covered in blood. Okay, we got a motive, but then it becomes clear that Billy and Shaggy are total dumb fucks that got lucky the first time they got away with murder and just didn't know to quit while they were ahead. These two bozos fuck their master plan in a matter of moments. The two guys reveal that they're going to peg the murders on Sydney's dad. Yeah, she had a dad that got abducted. The guy is totally unimportant beyond acting as a plot device in this one movie. Billy and Shaggy will stab each other to make it look like they were survivors of Mr. Prescott's mass murder. But here's the thing. Billy and Shaggy do this fucking monologue about their plan for people they're going to kill in moments anyway. Billy and Shaggy are as dumb as 007 villains, but at least 007 villains don't start stabbing each other before their victory's guaranteed. Yeah, cripple yourselves before you kill your last few victims. Great fucking plan. The worst mistake that these two fuck-ups make, though, is becoming distracted for a moment, allowing Sydney to escape. So, of course, the bad guys lose, and the movie is over, ending with a crane shot of the sunrise for some reason. Is this really a great place to end the movie? Here are a couple of stray questions I'm left with. Number 1, why did Ghostface attack Sid in the bathroom? Because Ghostface would have had to have been sitting around all day waiting and hoping that Sidney would need to use that specific restroom. Number 2, why was the Fonz killed? I know it helps explain away the remaining partygoers, but how could the killers have known that the principal's death would clear people out? Whatever. Don't get me wrong, Scream is a good horror movie. It's entertaining, it has some intrigue, some amusing moments, and the characters are pretty good. Pretty good. But the story doesn't make a whole lot of sense towards the end, and the meta stuff just doesn't have any bearing on what's going on. Scream is a very flawed movie, but it got people into horror again with its hip cast and, at the time, snappy dialogue. So Scream has had a pretty positive impact overall, especially since it introduced a generation of the classic horror films that it references. I give Scream a Shaggy out of Fonz. If you want to see a horror movie that is meta and where the deconstruction actually matters, then I recommend you go see Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon, a very underappreciated indie horror mockumentary about an up-and-coming slasher villain. It's so fucking good, and it needs that sequel or prequel, whatever the fuck they were going to make. Man.